April 7, 2025, meeting of the Kingston Select Board. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll introduce board members. To my right, Ellen Faulkner and Peter Bakey, board members. To my immediate right, Ellie Alessio, board member and vice chair. Glenn Koppelman here, current chair. To my left, Susan Ayer, our administrative assistant, and Laurie Swed, our board member. We also have Highway Agent Tom Rowan with us, and I don't see any other town folks. Okay. First order of business, we have an appointment scheduled with Robert Pagliarulo of Saddle Up Saloon. Sir, if you want to join us, probably one of those seats over there would be best. And once you get seated.
Thank you. Afternoon, evening.
You have the floor.
I am looking for 5 dates to do fundraiser events this summer with entertainment. And I'm looking now early because to get the entertainment, you have to book now or they're all booked up.
The dates, Bob.
You guys have a letter. You should have something attached.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't I read this into the record just so we've got it, so that everyone, just in case anyone in the audience is interested in this. This is looks like it's from you.
Correct.
To whom it may concern, Saddle Up Saloon is looking to host 5 motorcycle fundraisers. I am coming to you in advance due to the fact it takes time to line up entertainment. They would be held from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on May 20, July 15, August 19, September 16, and October 21st. We will have police detail during each event. Thank you, Robert Pagliarulo, owner, and it lists your phone number, which I will not read out, just in case. Okay, so I mean, the board has had discussions about this in the past, and I know that it has not been a unanimous opinion by the board, at least from my recollection. You haven't submitted a special permit application or special permit? Special event permit. So I guess if it were coming to us, I would expect it would be on that, but I mean, I'm just going to express my view on this now, and then we'll just open it up. It's always been my contention that for multiple events like this, it really should be part of the site plan approved by the planning board, and therefore we need an amendment. And I know the board has tossed this around, and up to this point has not required that of you. So open it up to the board for discussion. Microphones, please.
What days of the week are we talking about here?
Tuesday.
These are all Tuesdays?
Yeah. As you know, like last year, I think we raised with the Lions, Kingston Auxiliary, I think we raised like $30,000 just doing it on Tuesday nights.
How many events did you have last year down there?
I had 12.
12 events.
Yeah, and I've had no issues
I don't think we've had any
whatsoever.
complaints from the police department.
We have not, no. I do agree with Mr. Cobble. We should have a special events form with the dates on it, with the police chief and fire chief sign off, a road agent if necessary. I think that would be appropriate, but I understand the need to plan in advance. And I think the 5 dates are reasonable. It's around holiday weekends, it might do it, basically. So I am not objecting to this, but I would like a special events form with the chief signed off on that.
Anyone else?
There's been discussion about going back to the planning board. Have you taken those steps?
I'm sorry, Brenda.
Going back to the planning board to redo your
I am
site
thinking
plan?
about doing that because last time I did go in front, I did hire, for the town, made me hire a sound engineer.
Right.
And I read the reports again, but I've never gone over any sound limits to break any regulations in the town. And last time it was unfairly taken away from me after I did spend $3,000 on an engineer to say that I never went over the sound limits. But I just have not come back to do that yet. As you know, everything costs money. I'd have to have all engineering drawings again, gotta get the engineer involved again. So right now, I was just trying to get through the summer and maybe go through it over the winter, because it was a very off year this year, still is. So I'm trying not to spend too much money right now.
And then updated the site plan. I don't think you have to redesign the site plan. I think you just need an addendum to add to the site plan that you are allowed to have, let's see, 5 outdoor events on Tuesday nights throughout the summer. And
Yeah.
you should talk to Glenn Greenwood about it, because I don't think it's not a matter of redesigning the whole site plan, because just the location, the venue doesn't change, the size of the restaurant, the park, all that stays the
Right,
same.
right.
I think you just need an item added to the site plan that says that you're allowed to have, let's say, 5 events during the summer on Tuesday nights for fundraising for local charities.
Okay.
And I would suggest you talk to Glenn Greenwood downstairs and just kind of work that out with him. I don't think it's a heavy lift cost-wise.
Right.
So it would make it easier for us as the board too. We know that it's approved as part of the design of the operation of the Saddle Up Saloon.
Right,
So,
okay.
You know, if it were one event occasionally here and there, but I mean, it's a regular part of your business now. It's kind of built into your business plan.
Right.
You know, granted, there's a lot of good that comes from it, a lot of fundraising, but it is a significant activity, and it really is part of the business activity. So that's why I think it needs to be part of it.
If you guys think that, if I go in front of the planning board, because I haven't had the best luck going in front, last time I did, but I didn't ask for that, because I was told by my engineers, don't ask for that, they're not gonna give you everything else, and it's a lot to go back and forth all the time, you know? But I haven't had the best luck when it comes to that. I mean, especially after it was taken away, after I spent $3,000, you know, that was a...
yeah, but we've come a long way from that point, and
Yeah.
we don't get the complaints with the noise and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, the other thing, just to be completely fair, is that the planning board is a completely separate board from this one, and so, I mean, we can't sit here and tell you what they will approve and what they won't.
Right.
It's just that I think from a process point of view, the right thing to do, because it's a regular part of your business, is that it should be part of the site plan. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so how about we do it this way? I fill out the
Special events.
special event for this year, but I'll also fill out paperwork to go in front of the town so I can get that going, because we know that can't be a one-time thing, that can be 2, 3, and the summer's over. And honestly, the fundraiser things, I do for everyone, you know what I mean? It's just,
What if we were to approve like 2 of them, get him going on the process? He can go to the planning board, take care of that, have him fill out the paperwork, and that'll take him into July. He'll have the May and the July events, and then he can work on the rest of them through the planning board status.
Can I ask if the board would just wait until we get the request on the paperwork that we need first?
Yep.
And then at that time, maybe a report back from Mr. Pagliarulo indicating where he stands with planning board and if he's spoken with the town planner and
Yeah,
Yep.
you could have it back for us for next week.
yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what they're planning, I don't know what the schedule is, but it's just an email to get on the next agenda that they have available, just to find out what you need to do, and then that will give you a better idea of a cost or time frame or something like that. And it shows good faith to us that you're going in the right direction that way, so we don't have to keep having a special event request every year.
Okay, first off, I don't mind that he comes in for a special event, that's the process. So that doesn't bother me at all. Oh, excuse, I'm on. So that doesn't bother me at all that he's coming in for this. I'm new to the board, so could you explain to me what a motorcycle fundraiser entails?
What's a detail? It's
No, what is it?
Entertainment.
So outside entertainment?
Outside entertainment.
Speakers?
Whatever fundraiser we do it with, a lot of times it with Lions, or, like I said, the Kingston Auxiliary has a date, wants to pick one of the dates, and they collect money, they do that, they eat. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing that's always been going on, but I don't have bands anymore. So without the bands, you don't raise as much money. People don't want to come and just, it's not the same. I could do it inside, which I've been doing, but when you're outside in the summertime, you want to stay outside. So
Do you
that's
use the
really it.
parking lot for any
Yeah,
part
just
of the
the parking lot,
entertainment?
the
So
parking
it's
lot.
mostly the parking lot?
Yes.
Is
Yep.
is it in the restaurant too, and outside
Usually
things?
it's just the parking lot.
So it's basically the parking.
And they, yeah.
Where do people, I'm not trying to be wise, I don't know.
Well, it's
Where do people
motorcycles.
park?
It's motorcycles, right?
Okay.
So I can fit, I don't know, a bunch of them out back. But then we go around, like a circle and a line down the middle, back to back, and it leaves a big area open. And then we have the corral area where they'll eat and drink inside there too.
So that's all done, the food is done by the restaurant, it's not
Yes, of
done
course.
by the vans and things like
No,
that?
no, by the restaurant only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have, for lack of a better word, crafting table things, or it's just entertainment and?
No,
Thank you.
sometimes we have like vendors, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that vendors would be there selling jewelry and different, like the kid up the street that does the motorcycle seats will be there showing different seats, how we did different designs. That's really,
That must take up some room in the parking lot.
yeah, they got a table, a 6-foot table, that's it.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all I do. There's no cars or trucks allowed inside the area.
okay.
Yeah, that's why I keep the police and we cone it all off. It's all coned off, barrier it off. And the police actually make sure that no cars come in and out. And like I said, we haven't had any issues, and this is my 8th year.
And it's a hard end at 10 o'clock? Is
Hard
that true?
end, yeah. It usually, mostly summertime mosquitoes, it ends a little earlier, but I just, tends the,
I understand,
The
but
time,
you're
so,
asking
yeah.
for 10 o'clock is the outside number.
Yes.
But it doesn't go past 10.
yes.
You said you're not doing bands anymore?
No, I'm looking to do, this is what I'm trying to do, because the bands make the difference if you get enough people
Right.
to raise the money.
Okay,
I mean,
got
instead
it.
of making $3,000 on a Tuesday night, they could raise $10,000
Sure.
on a Tuesday night.
Okay.
But you might not be getting any complaints because you don't have bands.
It's a matter of the noise, Ellen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, again, when we did it last time and they came, I have a sound monitor. There's not even one
I'm
around
aware of
here.
the sound monitor.
Yeah, so
You
I
have an
make sure.
opinion, the board had an opinion, so we don't need to
Yeah,
live that.
yeah. So,
Okay, but you're gonna put in the permit and then we'll talk about it again.
Sure. So just to be clear on the planning board part, at this point, you don't want to make an appointment with the board, you want to make an appointment with the planner, who will be able to sit down with you in the office downstairs.
yeah, absolutely.
And kind of walk you through what he thinks you would need, because I agree with Ellie, who was saying that,
It's okay.
it's early and it's getting late already. You might not need a fully engineered site plan, because you've
Right.
already got one.
Yeah.
It depends on what level of change you're looking at, but if there's no change to the actual structure, it could be handled by a written affidavit that goes with the plan. And,
That's notarized or whatever, yeah.
so the cost could be
Yeah, small.
relatively small.
Yeah.
Not
What-
no cost, but
Right.
Yeah, there'll be something, but the point is that as time passes, we want that to be a legitimate part of your business. So it should be normal, so that when you decide to cash in and retire someday, that's part of the plan, so that the next person that comes into that location knows what they can or cannot do.
Right.
And we're trying to correct some of the inaccuracies that we're finding as we go through a different piece of property. So really, it's to your benefit in the long run.
Yeah,
Just
it'd make
update
life a
the
lot easier
plan.
to have it and know about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it nice and easy for, and then go each year, you put in the dates or whatever, and you're good to go.
Okay,
Okay, make it easy down the road.
that works for me.
So once you've submitted that, the special events permit, get it back to Susan, and it'll get back onto an agenda for us to discuss, just like we're doing tonight. And hopefully, by the time you come back to discuss that with us, you will have spoken with the planner, and you have a sense for where you're going with that.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions for Mr. Pagliarulo?
No, I think Glenn's in on Thursdays, I don't, in the afternoon.
He's in here on Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. Okay, committee liaison reports. We'll start with Lori.
I don't have anything to report. The museum committee did not meet last week. They did not have quorum. This week, it's busy. It's HDC, it's rec, and it's solid waste. So this week is a busy week for
So
me.
you'll have lots to talk about.
I will, next meeting, yeah.
I have two items. One is the Watershed Management Plan Committee met between our last meeting and this one, or somewhere nearby, and I don't think we talked about it, but they're still working on getting an application together to submit to the Department of Environmental Services to help hopefully get some funding, although that's questionable these days, but possible funding for helping with the erosion improvement project at Greenwood Pond. And at that meeting, the committee chair invited property owners from 3 of the properties, and 2 showed up, a representative from the Gideon Lodge and one from the Congregational Church. And because some of this work is going to be done on or near their properties, which also have lake frontage right there, and or pond frontage. And so when you go to apply for funding such as what they're looking to do, not to mention the fact that it's a good idea anyway, you want to have the buy-in from folks who are going to be involved and impacted by the work. So those 2 entities were represented there, and both of them were very positive and said that they would supply letters of support to go along with the application. So that's that. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that it was brought to my attention that the week of April 20, which is that next week or the week after?
Week after.
Week after, is National, I think it's National Volunteer Week. And I don't think we had planned anything, but I would like to ask the board if you'd be willing to either start our select board meeting a half hour earlier or take the first half hour of it, and I'd be willing to pick up some coffee and maybe some snacks and send out an announcement to all of our boards and committees and just invite them in to for a little social time.
Well, I'm not opposed to doing that at all, but we've done a nice event at the town highway garage where we invited employees and volunteers to a luncheon. I would like us to do that again more than half an hour, because you know it's going to be longer. Yeah, and Paula worked on that, and I know Tammy did. I think Susan were out as well, and they had the ukulele folks down there too. And I don't know. I thought we've done it a couple of times, and I thought that was a really nice event, and do it in June on a Friday. I don't know. I'd like to do that more. Not to say that we shouldn't acknowledge the National Volunteer Week or send a letter to each of our committees and thanking them for the service to the community, for sure, but.
Well, I think we would certainly do that at the very least, is at our meeting during that week. I would certainly announce it and just do a general thank you to the volunteers. And
Okay.
if the board would like to continue with what we've been doing, which is a more of a summertime event, as a cookout, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I'm seeing head nods. around the table?
It's a nice event, and
I think the gesture is nice, I just don't think a half an hour would be long enough, to be honest with you. People get in and start socializing, and when you go kick them out, 'cause we have a meeting. I just think it.
Thank you for your time,
Yeah,
Bill.
I think it would be a little bit longer than a half an hour, there's a lot of people conversing and stuff. Correct. Correct.
Will do. Okay, thank you. Ellie?
I don't have much to report, except that next week's planning board meeting, there's going to be a couple design review proposals, and one of them is on the old Kingston Fairway site that has part of the project in Kingston and part of the project in East Kingston. Yeah, that should be interesting, so just letting you all know, there's a couple, I don't know what the other proposal is yet, but there are a couple design reviews, and that means that we're just gonna be hearing what they're proposing to put on the property. It's not a formal application at all, it's just to get some feedback and some response from the planning board as to the do's and don'ts accordingly. So that's next week. That was it for me.
Okay, Peter?
Just a couple things. Marissa, we've been in contact. She's doing a great job. Again, we have a pretty good open line of communication. Nothing to report with her. Highway Department, I was able to attend a training that they held down there as far as the permitting that Pedro put on. I think that was actually phenomenal. Embarrassed to say that I was the liaison last time to Pedro, and a lot of things going on downstairs, as we all know, and I never really get to sit with him to learn that, but he did offer a little training session up at the Highway Department, and that was just a great job. He's really spot on with that permitting.
Training for what?
The Cloud 9 permitting?
Cloud permit.
Permitting. So I was able to attend that. Tom and I have been working quite a bit on this, on the electrical and the planes. We'll talk about that when that comes up. And just a little bit of a thank you to Steve Daly. Actually, Steve's quite a carpenter. That was one of our newest employees down there, and he's been doing a lot of work around town, and he was helping me to draw up a sketch, and I'll be meeting with HTC tomorrow night at their meeting to talk about the project over here on the plains, and he was able to come up with some very nice conceptual ideas on what those panels are going to look like to be mounted on the planes for them. So thank you to Steve Daly on that.
Thank you. Ellen? Are you on? Thank you.
We
Got
have
you
the,
before the wrapping.
I know, before the wrapping. We have the high school for the March election. The town clerk wanted me to make sure that we told everybody that happened.
Excellent.
Tammy and Lori, I think, went to that meeting to try and, and Peter, I'm sorry, to alleviate their concerns, and I think that worked well. Conservation, Pollinator Pathways has received their nonprofit status, so they were all very excited about that. That was a subcommittee for conservation, and that finally came through, so that was something they were excited about. And conservation also asked for, hang on, I want to get the wording right. There was an excavation permit, and it has to be done within a certain time frame. So conservation asked that it be denied pending additional information. They're not opposed to the permit per se, but there's wetlands on the property, and there's no indication on the permit where the excavation is going to take place on this huge acreage. So their only option, because of the timing, was to ask for, to deny the permit just to be able to get that information, but because it's in a certain amount of time, but they're more than happy to have somebody else try to get the information from Mr. Tormeo. The excavation permit goes to conservation for their comments, and they're not opposed to it, but they said, we can't give you real comments because we have no indication of whether it's away from the wetlands, and there's wetlands on the project. Susan was volunteered to see if she could just get the information to move it along, but I said, wait and see what the board wants to do. I don't want to be the only person suggesting doing that.
All right, so it looks as though it's an intent to excavate.
And see, they only meet monthly, so in order, they had to, okay.
There's a check attached from Toromeo Industries, and they are the applicant.
And apparently Mr. Tormeo asked the conservation to put their discussion off to their next meeting, but they really can't because there's a date on that form that says the decision has to be made by that date. So, they were kind of, you know, we're between a rock and a hard place, because we need the information, but
So the applicant should have gotten it a month earlier to the conservation committee, is what you're saying.
I mean, they were able to look at it, but there's no other information other than we'd like to excavate this amount on this big, huge parcel.
So they don't know.
And there's wetlands, and that's all they want to know, is where's the excavation going to take place?
So the date that this was, it says the date that it was sent to the town is March 11th, 2025.
But it's stated that,
And we
yeah.
received it on the 24th.
So we have a little more time if you want me to reach out to get a map.
And where does it say the 30 days?
It doesn't say it on there. I had to reach out to DRA to find out. They sent me the rules that include that 30
And
day.
conservation was aware of that.
Yeah.
So they knew they only had 30
So
days.
if we have 30 days from the day we received it, is that the way it reads?
Yep.
All right, so we have until April 24th.
Okay, so they have another shot.
Yeah, and they said they could meet again if they got the information, but they didn't want to overstep any other boards, so they had to make a decision, and that decision was the only, that we don't have the information, we have to ask for denial.
Okay, so are we gonna have information from them by the time we have to respond within 30
They
days?
know what the time frame is, so they said that if more information was gathered, they might be able to have another meeting, or, you know, to try and get this worked out. They
They'll
weren't
have a
trying,
special meeting to accommodate.
they said if we get the information, they thought that they could do that.
So then it's okay for us to hold this until we get that?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not out of time yet.
Okay.
So,
No, but let our mayor know that we need it.
yep.
Susan had offered to contact Mr. Tormeo, but I
Okay.
said, wait and see what the board wants you to do. So,
Okay.
I think, oh, just the other thing was that the town clerk has suggested, and I have a feeling she might have contacted some people, but there are some appointments to committees downstairs that nobody's come in on. So she asked that maybe we remind the other boards to make sure that the people on their committees have come in and gotten sworn in.
Yes, there is apparently a folder at the town clerk's office that has been accumulating appointments to boards and committees, and I was guilty of having one of those sitting in the folder and had not done anything about it, so I did stop and get sworn in for that. So this, as a general announcement to folks who might be listening, either here or out there somewhere, who have outstanding appointments for boards or committees, you do need to be sworn in, so please see the town clerk tax collector at your earliest convenience to do that.
So when you announce and congratulate them for volunteer week next week, they might have made their way in to see Tammy and got sworn in.
Yeah, maybe.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. Okay. Anything else, Ellen?
Nope, I don't think so.
Anyone else, last call on liaison reports? Okay. All right. Guessing that with all the folks in the audience, you must be here for public comment. So, public comment number 1 is now. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you, and then Mr. Pellegrino. And if you'd sit in the chair at the end, and once you've sat down, push the button so it's green, and
Okay.
state your name and address.
My name is Robert Pellegrino, 8 Delsey's Point Road, Kingston. A few weeks ago, sitting at the seat, the tax collector basically called me a liar and said that the information that I had given out was incorrect. And if it's true, I will apologize in public right here. But I had mentioned that, well, first of all, I believe that everybody should be paying their fair share of taxes. So, and I think that's just fair for the citizens of this town. So when I had said that Mr. Bakey has 42 acres on Greenwood Pond, and she said that she didn't abut Greenwood Pond. Well, I'll tell you where I got the information, and if I'm wrong, I will apologize. you see that. You see Greenwood Pond lit up in blue, and you also see the Bakey's property. So it doesn't not only abut Greenwood Pond, it abuts the whole length of Greenwood Pond.
Can I interrupt?
So, hold on.
No, I'm sorry.
So, when she said that she didn't abut Greenwood Pond, that's not true, because it says it right here. Now, if this is wrong, I will apologize. Is this wrong, Peter?
That is 100% wrong.
This came from MLS.
100% wrong.
Okay, so you don't touch Greenwood Pond
Not
whatsoever?
at all.
Then I
No,
apologize.
No, that's all right. You, actually, we've been dealing with this problem. If you look at some hunting maps and apps, it shows that. This is actually what you're looking at. That's owned by Walt and Donna Carter. And that's map, if you want to write this down so you reference, you
No,
can look
no,
at this.
no, I believe you. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
this,
take your
no,
word
no,
for it.
this is not correct, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I needed to check that out. That's where I got
No,
that
no problem.
information. So there's my first apology. My second apology was, well, my second thing that I had said was that they have a finished barn.
Was
A
what?
finished barn. And the barn wasn't assessed properly. So Tammy said that she had her barn assessed properly. The assessor, Katie, said that. And I'd like to show you, because I also had a meeting with Katie. And this is their tax card. Now, when I say tax card, I got their tax card because when I called the state, they sent me tax card, so that's why I call it a tax card, but here you go. If you look at the notes, because when I called the assessor, actually, last year when I went and paid my taxes, Tammy kind of like verbally abused me. She said that, you know, I had a problem with her bond, and I didn't. I said, no, I don't. I just want to make sure everybody's paying their fair share of taxes. So I actually had a meeting with the assessor, and I called the state, and they told me that they never surveyed that property, that it was gated and locked. So if you look down on your assessment, it shows the assessment for, I think it's $53,000. Mine here. That bond is assessed for $53,000, and that's just a raw bond. That was in 2024. That was just last year. So after I had, you know, checked into that, apparently Pedro, well, Tammy had told me that, how do you know we didn't take the bathroom out? Because I said there's a bathroom in the barn. I seen it. I built the barn with Peter. And I said, well, did you take the bathroom out? And she said, maybe. So that's fine. Took the bathroom out. Peter admitted to Pedro, apparently, that he took the bathroom out. So that eliminates that issue. Only there's a problem with that. To have a bathroom, you have to have running hot water and cold water. If you're gonna have running hot and cold water, you gotta have a hot water tank. If you have a bathroom. If you have a bathroom and you have hot water, then you gotta have heat. So it's a heated barn. If you have heat, then it's gotta be insulated and sheetrocked, or the heat's gonna go through the building. So it's basically a 40 by 60 house that is appraised at $53,000. It should be $500,000. If you look on their tax card, the third sentence up on the notes, it says, check 2018 for 40 by 60 barn. After that, it says gated. So the assessor could never get into the property. So, and wouldn't you say Tammy has a very unique job, I would say. She could have easily went to the assessor and said, hey, listen, we have a finished barn. You need to fix the assessment. It's not $53,000. It's only $1,000 a month, a year. Should be $10,000 for that building. It's a heated building, okay? So, that being said, Tammy couldn't go to the assessor and tell her that, because Peter never pulled a permit for the bathroom, doesn't have a septic permit, because I called the state, there's no septic permit, so that's a cesspool that drained into. That's illegal. So, that being said, that is a heated building. It's finished. So what Tammy said was not true. Okay? You need to pay your fair share of taxes. And if the assessor had come out and saw that, now she threw Katie under the bus. If the assessor had come out and saw that, she certainly would have caught the bathroom, a finished building, because it's not just a raw building. If I finish my house that I'm finishing right now in my subdivision, and I just leave it as a raw shell, you have to admit that building is worth less money than if it was completely finished. So I would be assessed differently. So this has been going on since 2018. Tammy was the tax collector then. She didn't go to the assessor because she couldn't. This is betrayal of this town. She took an oath as an officer. This is a betrayal of $9,000 a year since 2017. Now, do I think that she should be fired? Absolutely not. But you need to pay your back fair share of taxes. That's a heated, finished building, no matter how you call it. Even if you take the bathroom out. For you to have that bathroom that existed, you need to have that building finished. And that's not right. Now, let me finish. I'm almost done with that. So, now the reason why I'm here. A couple years ago, because you guys couldn't find a building inspector, you're going to throw my 82-year-old parents out of their house in the middle of winter. And then finally, when they get into their house, because it was over a gate in front of the spiral staircase, that's all it was, really. So you stress them out to the fact, well, my father's really sick, he's got Parkinson's, so that was, anyway, set him off. But then, when they go to get garbage barrels, they wouldn't deliver the garbage barrels to them. So they were too busy. When I called Phil, they said, you come pick them up. I was out of town, my sister went and picked them up. What do they get? They get dirty, used barrels with holes in them. I had to scrub them all out, all this scum. That's how my parents are treated. Mark Heitz is walking his dog in my neighborhood. He's a cop in town, from what I understand. Throws his dog crap right in front of my parents' driveway. My 82-year-old mother has to waddle up there. I saw him do it. He was building a house. He was nice enough to throw the baggie into the dumpster that was at the top of the driveway, though. At least he did that. Now, you know why I'm here, because you can mess with me, and you guys have done that, and I don't really care. It's part of the thing. But when you mess with 82-year-old people, that's just wrong, okay? And there was no need for that. And everything I said that night was true. Mr. Koppelman, I watched the planning board, the select board give you 75% off of your bond. You have a historical bond. It was in a newspaper, in a magazine. I saw it. Ernie was advocating for you. So you got 70. I wasn't saying that it was illegal. I just didn't think it was appropriate that we're all paying such high taxes. And then, Ms. Alessio, I'm sorry, you took 60 feet of my property in my subdivision, stating that you were going to extend my road. Now, that's, if I was wrong, because I was standing with a picket when running for selectman last year, and one of the ladies, not Pam Brown, one of the other ladies told me that you sold your property. That's how I found out that you actually sold that 18 acres of swamp to the town for $300,000. If that's not true, because from what I understand, there was a warrant article, it was given to Southeast Land Trust, and that's how it was purchased. If it's wrong, like I apologized about the property line being wrong on Greenwood Pond, I will apologize. But
Not the case.
I said 300,000. I'm pretty sure. I know
No,
what I
you
said.
did, only when you were at the candidates night.
I know what I read my speech.
And I was, yes, I did sell the land to Southeast Land Trust and then went from there to the town. And I made the contract before I even ran for office.
I'm not saying it was illegal.
It's not illegal.
No, I know. I'm just saying it was inappropriate.
But the reason what I demanded from you was my right to have a right-of-way on my property. You could not close off that 18 acres and not give me access, and an easement wasn't going to cut it.
I don't argue
So
with
I'm
that.
sorry you have held that grudge, and I said to you then, had you talked to me and said, I'd like to swap some land so I don't have to put that right-of-way in, we could have done something, but you didn't take the high road. You took the low road.
Okay, that's fine. All right, this is my other thing with the Bakey's bond. No permitting whatsoever. Now, I'd like to put this out too. This is the other part of the tax bill. If you look in the notes, it'll show you every permit that was pulled. Now, when I have to pull a permit, my goodness, I have to pull every permit or they shut my subdivision down every time. So I gotta make sure I do everything. If you look at the bottom of permits, you have a permit on 6/12/17 for an accessory outbuilding, 40 by 60 bond, 100% complete. You have an electrical permit for electricity to the bond. When you finish the inside, you have to pull a building permit. When you finish the inside and you do electrical, you have to pull an electrical permit. when you put a bathroom in, you have to pull a plumbing permit, and Peter always, you know, he's always bragging that he's a professional licensed plumber, he should know better, but he couldn't pull a permit because he put an illegal dry well in. So, I have a form that's actually going to, it's a complaint, that's going to dry well, so that's going into. So I think the town needs to go out there. Tammy said that that building has been assessed properly. That was a lie.
Okay, Mr. Pellegrino?
Yep,
First of all, this is not a court of law here.
right.
We appreciate you bringing the information to our attention. Again, if there are complaints or actions that you need to take, do what you need to do. If you need to speak with our assessor, by all means, do that. If you need to get clarification or make any formal complaints that direction, you can do that. But you chose to come here during the public comment period, and although we don't have a specific amount of time set aside for that, we've really used up a lot of that for your presentation tonight. So
I appreciate that.
I'd appreciate you wrapping it up, and let us know if there's something you need us to do afterwards, or...
No, I think, well, the only thing I would wrap up is that I think that, like I said, everybody should pay their fair share of taxes. Our taxes have gone up through the roof past few years, and I understand why. So I don't begrudge anybody doing well for themselves, but you got to pay your own fair share of taxes. That's just the bottom line. If that's a finished building, it's not a $53,000 building, raw building. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for your time. Dare I ask if there's anyone else who wishes to make public comment? Ma'am? Oops, I'm sorry, Pam, I didn't see your hand. Are you together or no? Please sit. Sir, if you would bring that microphone in front of you, and both of you push the buttons on your mics till they're green, and then state your name and address.
Okay. Hi, I usually don't need a mic, so I apologize.
Well, you need it because in order for people, we're televising this.
Oh,
So
okay.
in order for people to hear.
So it's for them, not for the people in the room. Got it. I actually have a prepared statement, just so I try to stay on track, so I'm just going to read from my phone. My name is Sarah Taglieri, and I am a resident of Kingston, specifically 24 Jericho Drive, where I've been for almost 16 years now. And I'm actually here to talk about the recent intent to excavate request that was submitted by Tormo that we talked about briefly earlier, what you did. We bought our house knowing that it was in a quiet neighborhood and that our property was completely surrounded by trees. We did know that we were direct abutters to Tormeo Industries, which is a rock quarry that at the time operated a fair distance from the house. In fact, there are multiple summers that I can recall hearing the machinery way off in the distance, which I found comforting given where I grew up as a kid. However, that did change in 2020, when not only did they end up clearing 20 acres, but they ended up clearing 28 acres of property that was a direct abuttal to my property. In fact, they definitely cut probably within 50 feet of my property line. We brought our concerns to this governing body on multiple occasions because we felt they were in violating of town ordinances, specifically Section 100, Article 107.6C. However, we were advised that according to RSA 155E2, that Tormeo does not have to actually comply with any town ordinances because they are in fact grandfathered. And as such, they do not have to abide by any buffers. In fact, we've been told, perhaps off the cuff, I can't quite remember, that they could basically go all the way up to our property line with no recourse. Although there is no proof that they are grandfathered, given that that body that would have verified them over 30 years ago no longer exists, we've been advised that the town is just going on the assumption that that documentation was done, and again, that they have free reign to bring their heavy machinery and equipment right up to our property line. I know some can say it is their right, they are a business, it is their property, but I still, as an abutter, what about us? In fact, we've even had a scheduled blast where a member of the board, or from the town actually, as well as a representative from the blasting company, came out during a scheduled blast, but actually I asked my husband to stand 200 feet inside of our property marker to ensure we were not hit by any debris, which I find ironic given that we lose our property that we pay taxes on for an entity that's supposedly grandfathered and does not have to really respect any type of barrier of any kind. Now, again, people feel that we somehow should have known that when we moved in, that, you know, they could operate, you know, wherever that they felt. However, I can tell you that I never would have thought that I'd be able to hear equipment more than a half a mile away, maybe even a full mile. I know I can hear it down where the kids are at their bus stop at the corner of Jericho and Hunt Road. I don't think anybody would have imagined that I'd be doing my dishes to see heavy machinery now crossing into the woods on the road that they have made. In fact, I know I've actually been told that, well, those sights and sounds are considered to be white noise or normal if you live on an industrial or farmland. I do not live on any one of those. I live on a quiet residential neighborhood. In fact, I've always been raised to believe that when you live in a neighborhood, there are neighbors that are neighborly. In fact, I have been told that Tormeo has been neighborly. And as such, where I grew up, if somebody was going to do construction or tree removal that could potentially come up to someone's property, you have that conversation with them. However, we have received no notification on any of the excavation that occurred in 2020. Some of us even had to fight just to get the 24-hour notification of regularly scheduled blasts. I will admit it has gotten a lot better. But yet here we are again, where we're coming to ask for more information. And the only reason that we know something is going on is our neighbors happen to see a plethora of no trespassing signs pop up in their woods with no information regarding what is going on. I understand that, again, Tormeo has been neighborly, that they care about the community, and in fact, I've heard, granted on social media, that, oh, because they're a large industry, you know, they help, you know, cut our taxes. However, at the end of the day, I don't see any communication to their neighbors or empathy about the situation that we're in. Going back to my original concern regarding this intent to excavate, unlike my neighbors, I honestly don't think anything is going to happen. However, you know, depending on where they're actually looking to excavate, maybe the EPA or wetlands or conservation can kind of help us out. But I do want to stress that the current request to excavate, which is map R2 lot 8, has 11 direct abutters, 3 of which are owned by this town, but 8 are private residents. None of us have received any communication. I will also stress that that lot in question, according to your town maps, is 182 acres. They are looking to excavate 20.67, which seems to be their standard request to excavate. Where exactly is it in that 182 acres? I may be here wasting everybody's time if it has no location near my home. But again, at the end of the day, while they may be grandfathered or not, maybe this town needs to set some type of ordinance that whether they are grandfathered or not, there should be some type of ordinance where, if nothing else, be neighborly and let people know of any potential excavation or heavy machinery in people's neighborhoods. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't go.
Okay.
We do have that request, that intent to excavate request in our folder. There's also a note attached to it, I believe, from Conservation Commission, who expressed some of the same things that you just did with regard to not knowing where the excavation is actually, because there was no map attached to it. So there's a request, but no specifics about it. And so I believe that we had talked and said that we would not take action on that until we got more information from Conservation Commission, who I believe has reached out or will reach out. Susan. Thank you. Lost track of who's doing what. And so, with regard to the permit, until we have more information, we won't be taking action on it.
Understood.
You know, with regard to the overall issue, we have a board member who lives on Jericho. I realize, nonetheless, it is really tough when there's industrial uses right beside residential uses. I mean, it's one of, it's one of the hardest things, and yes, they've been there a long time. Being there for a long time does not necessarily mean that they're grandfathered for everything. But I don't think anyone here at the table is prepared to get into any detail with you because we don't have that in front of us. Being neighborly, well, that's always a good thing, but it's always very hard when it's in heavy industrial use beside a residential area. That is really tough. And I don't know how else to say it.
I'm glad to hear that communication has improved, because that's a far cry from the few years back when you had to come in. Remember your husband, he had to come in and talk to us a number of times. It was awful from what you were saying.
So the blasting notifications has improved since they switched to the new blasting company. We did have to fight with the previous blasting company, but again, I mean, we're talking maybe 60 seconds twice a month where your socks get rocked, but you know, that was compounded by, again, you know, sitting outside over the course of 2020. We were all home because of COVID. The start of the summer, you've got, you know, you can hear the machinery off in the distance. By the fall, I'm watching these Caterpillar type, you know, heavy machineries in my backyard, and it sounds like they're right on my property line, and to find out that they're within 50 feet, you know, and then during some of the blasts, you know, this guy goes out and gets hit with debris. So when we bring that up, it is, oh, we'll just stand 200 feet on the inside. You know, and our whole point was, you know, the town ordinance was a 200, 500-foot buffer, so that, you know, no operation within the 500 or the heavy machinery or whatnot. It's a 200, 500, and I forget the exact specifications. And the irony is that now we have to stand on the inside during some of this. And, you know, but the blasting itself, that has gotten better. But again, you know, where we are direct abutters, and this is not the first time that unfortunately that we have come to you, where we don't know where exactly they're gonna be doing this excavation. Again, it's a 182-acre lot, but there are 11 abutters, 3 of which are owned by the town. So I would think you, for your own interest, would wanna know where you're doing it, not just because of wetlands. You have 11 of those 3 of those plots, but 8 of us, and I think quite a few of my neighbors are here, and even us that aren't direct abutters. I know when I stand at that bus stop down at the corner of Jericho and Hunt, I can clear as day at 7:30 in the morning hear all of that heavy machinery that I did not hear 5 years ago. So I can't be the only one on the Jericho Hunt area that has noticed that it's noisier now from them. And with another 20 acres, again, I don't know where, but another 20 acres, and it's gonna make it quieter. So, anyway, sorry.
Well, we have to figure out where that 20 acres is.
Well, right, and that's what we're gonna be finding out is.
I appreciate that.
Where exactly on the property they're looking to work with this permit. I'm gonna suggest we do one more thing. Susan, if you can add this to your list, to also reach out to our town planner. I realize that if I recall, some of the excavation work and some of the activity that happens on that site is under the guidance and jurisdiction of Bureau of Mines. Doesn't exist anymore, okay. And RSA 155E, which you cited, actually used to be under the auspices of the planning board here in town, and some number of years ago that was removed and taken away, so it just falls to the RSA, what it says, and probably this board. But our town planner has a lot of, I mean, he's got over 30 years of experience here with the town, and he's dealt with that site before. I'd like to run it by him just to see what other issues he might be able to help out with.
I'll bring it to him again. He is aware.
He is aware.
And they have a meeting next week, so, planning board.
Yes,
Okay.
it's next Tuesday night.
So there's time if they need to discuss any of this, but he is aware of this. I went to him first with the question.
He'll be in on Thursday, right?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, he'll be in the office on Thursday, Susan, if you can give him some heads up at that point, because we might be looking at this again next Monday night with regard to the permit, so any input we can have by that time would be helpful. Again, it's a tough situation. we'll do what we can at least to make sure that we've got the correct information before we sign off on anything. And if, Susan, do you have these folks' contact information?
Yes, I'm sure from before, I also have the letter that you sent as a group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do. Is it okay if I speak now?
Sure. Now, the letter, there is a letter from Jericho Road folks, yes?
Yep.
And I don't think it was signed by anybody, it was just generally the residents.
Residents, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Does this essentially encapsulate what you've just spoken about, ma'am?
I believe so. I'm looking at my neighbors. Does that letter adequately represent what I summarized?
Because
2,000 words or less? Okay.
Because the reason I'm asking is that it's a two-page, single-sided letter, which, if you want me to read it, I will. But if what this young lady has said accurately captures the gist of the letter, then.
I do have an additional comment, though.
Oh, okay, when.
It's less than 1 minute.
Not, after they're finished, but I've got Ms. Brown before you, so hang on. What? Okay, sir, and if you could restate your name, please, if you have.
I have not stated my name yet. Matt Taglieri, 24 Jericho Drive. I just wanted to add a few more points to what my wife had mentioned in her statement. We've already expressed our concern about what's being cut, how much is being excavated. Wanted to find out if there was any deforestation involved, or if there's an intent to cut that's been filed as well, because I understand that's a separate form.
It is.
Okay. And that has been?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hasn't come to us yet.
Okay.
Not that we've seen.
One question I also have is, does this intent to excavate expand upon their original footprint that was grandfathered in? Because if it does, it should preclude them from grandfather status.
That's why I would like our administrative assistant to check with the town planner to check on that. That would be one of the issues I'd want him to weigh in on for us.
Mm-hmm. Another point was, what is Tormeo going to do to mitigate the effects of their negative impact on the community? That's both in terms of sound and in terms of the visual impact. Their response when they excavated behind our property was originally to plant new trees. And we waited for a plan, and it never came. Eventually, they came up with another solution to build an earthen berm, which does nothing for the sound. It was more just as a safety measure. But they said one thing, they didn't follow through on it, and then they did another thing that was accepted by the board. This is the same story. They're doing more excavation. What are they going to do? We'd like to know up front before they just go and cut everything. Because last time they cut everything, and it was like, it's already cut. So it was after the fact they were trying to figure out what they were going to do to mitigate it. Now we're asking you, what are they going to do now? Get them to document that before they just go and cut and destroy everything. Mentioned already the concern about the wetlands that came up. And then kind of just the last comment was to kind of more iterate a point that my wife made was, why isn't anyone ever notified? I mean, my neighbor finds signs in the back of his yard and ribbons around trees, but they don't ever notify the residents that are abutting. Do they have a responsibility to do that, or can they just,
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I would think if they really were good neighbors, they would notify.
Well,
They should.
And there's a difference between what they're required to do and what maybe they should do, given the fact that they're right up against a residential area.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, that's why I'm here, just to express my thoughts, my concerns. Hopefully, this is all taken into consideration when, you are making a decision on whether to give them the yay or nay on excavating more.
Well, it concerns me about those trees, because I was on the board at the time you had talked about that, and they were going to add some buffers in the back there to try to mitigate some of the noise. And obviously they haven't, from what you're telling us.
Just an earthen berm. There's no trees that were ever planted.
Okay.
And they've come within the 50 feet that the town lawyer said they could come to. I mean, I could get I could have it measured, but I can just tell you that they have a road that they drive their trucks on, which they use to build the berm, and it's within 50 feet. It's probably closer to 25 to 30.
So they were supposed to stay 50 feet off the lot line?
According to the town lawyer.
Yeah, that's true.
That was documented in 2020 in one of the town board meetings here.
So they're using it for vehicles?
I've seen vehicles on it. Yep.
All right, well, we've got some follow-up work to do, clearly.
Okay.
So we'll do our best to follow up on that. And
I've got a video of a vehicle on it that I could send someone if they need proof.
well,
Susan? Okay.
I'm sure that if someone went out and looked at the property, they'd be able to tell
Yeah.
that there's been activity there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's not to encourage you to go onto their property to
Oh,
measure.
no, we never-
So,
nope.
Yeah, so.
Nope.
I just want to make that was clear, that we're not
No,
trying to
we
tell you
have
to do that.
we know exactly where our property line is. There's a rock wall. We will not step foot on that side, so don't worry.
What number again, Jericho, are you?
24.
24?
We're the cul-de-sac, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're the closest point of, closest to butter. So,
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
all right.
Thank you for coming in. You can turn it off. Yeah, thank you. It's going to go back on shortly anyway. Okay, sir, if you want to come up, Ms. Brown is relinquishing her time because apparently your comment is related to their comment. And before you start speaking, sit yourself down. Push the button till it turns green. And your name and address, please.
Bob Berg, 18 Jericho Drive. Can everybody hear me? Okay. And I'm just going to echo a little bit. I've got a short statement. So I'm going to echo what Sarah said. My wife, Joyce, said one morning last week or whatever, there's a no trespassing sign out behind our lot where the trees are. And I said, you need your eyes checked. And then the fight started, and then I went out and looked, and sure enough, there's a no trespassing sign. I looked again later, there are purple delineation ribbons around the wetlands area. I think even some of them might have been put over our property. I'm not sure the exact line, and no, I did not cross onto the Tormeo property, at least knowingly. So the statement that I have here, which should be pretty quick, is when we were here a few years ago, 2020-ish, we were told the Tormeo Quarry was grandfathered in versus newer operations where local authorities are required to consider and protect adjacent residential neighborhoods in terms of aesthetics, noise, etc., and that the select board had no authority to deny their permit. But given their 2024 guilty plea to criminal charges for environmental violations relating to wetlands and unlawfully altering terrain, in addition to their 2013 Clean Water Act violations, the Select Board, in my opinion, must deny their request to excavate or remove timber. Their preponderance to behave in an illegal manner supersedes any grandfather clause in their operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Pam, I'm not gonna ask you to keep giving up your time here. If you're fine, okay, ma'am. Okay. Well, not well enough to recognize. No.
Cheryl Gannon, 40 Jericho Drive. The issue of of notifying abutters when something's going to be happening on a property, especially something that's industrial. You said that was an interesting question. Will you be researching whose responsibility it is to let abutters know when something like this is going to happen that's abutting their property? Will the selectmen be researching that and finding out whose responsibility it is if it's not done in a neighborly manner?
I mean, I can try, I mean,
I was
I
going to
don't.
say, we certainly can look into
We
it.
look at, right. I don't know that we can enforce that, to be very honest with you. I mean, we can certainly look to see whether there are any regulations that require them. My guess is there are not. But that's not to say we can't ask for it.
Yes, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Susan, have you made note of that? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gannon. Okay.
Good evening, Select Board members. Pam Brown, 23 Sunshine Drive. I noticed Revision Energy is on the agenda tonight, their extension of option to lease agreement. I haven't seen that agreement or the contract. I don't know the details of it, but I just wanted to mention that I was reading some of the town reports recently, and I noticed Richard St. Hilaire had something important to say. Just wanted to read his comments to you from the report. Quote, "The old dump sits there, and most people driving by have no idea of either its potential or the liability it imposes on you, the taxpayers. We are now looking at putting a large solar array to supplement our energy use costs. I support this study. You perhaps also noticed farm animals grazing on the hill. This is an attempt to use a more organic and less costly form of maintaining the vegetation on the trash pile." And then in all caps he writes, "Whatever we do, you must remember that the landfill is a potential time bomb waiting to explode." Then he continues, "This was a dump for many towns for over 60 years, and absolutely no living person could possibly know what was dumped there. We have done and maintained what was approved by the state of New Hampshire and the federal EPA in the closing of the dump, but as we all know, these agencies are notorious for changing the rules. We are one test away from a major expense if bad things happen." And then he goes on to assure that he's maintained testing and reporting. So what I'd like to say is, I know that the Revision continues to assess the site as a possible solar array, and they are probing it and they're doing tests and so forth to determine the full costs of the project, which will determine what our revenue might be after the costs are invested each year. And you know I've spoken a lot and I'm pretty risk averse. So I'm just wanting you to keep in mind, we've heard 55,000 per year might be the revenue stream to the town. Now we're hearing 35,000 a year, depending on the costs. So at what point is that 35 a year worth it? I'm just concerned about the cap. I would like something done with it, but I think that's a very strong warning there that we should heed. And I understand Revision has done this on landfills before, so they're pretty expert at it. But again, we need to proceed with caution. So thank you so much.
Would you like a bit of clarification on what, we don't have that on the agenda at this moment, but just in case you're not here for that part of the discussion, the item that is up for tonight for us is a one-year renewal of their land lease agreement, which was up to 5-year agreement, which the town authorized the select board to enter for Revision to investigate the possibility and to come up with a plan for a possible solar array at the landfill. So what's in front of us tonight is just a one-year extension, which the agreement called for annual renewals rather than because we didn't know how long their investigation was going to take. They had up to 5 years, but they didn't necessarily need to take 5 years. but the agreement calls for a renewal every year, and that renewal is up now, so that's what we need to take action on. And we still don't have any kind of design or anything to work with. If and when that happens, that would then go to the voters to approve.
I would just hope any contract that is finalized includes significant liability discussion, so that if there's anything that happens to that landfill while they're working on it, that we're covered for that. So, okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Phil? Okay. Well, I recognized you, Phil, so Mr. Coombs, I should say.
We've got to share. This is on my dime, so.
Oh, so there's only a few copies. We can share.
In last week's department head selectmen meeting, there was a slanderous accusation made against me. The allegation was that I had self-appointed as the Director of Public Works. It was also stated that this was not a decision of the board. These defamatory statements endanger not only my professional reputation, but my standing in the community, both as a business owner and a resident. Its insinuation of self-dealing and duplicitousness cannot be left unchallenged, and I am here to set the record straight. I ask that the following be attached to the minutes so that they are captured as the official record. Item A in there is the cover page of my contract that was dated and signed on 11 July of 22, clearly appointing me as Public Works Director. If I was engaged in a grand conspiracy, it must have happened before that. Can we all agree on that? Okay. Item B, the job posting from 9 May 22, advertising the open position as Public Works Director. Item C, the work session minutes for the Board of Selectmen from 7 April 22. I will read directly from them. This work session was where the vacancy as the police chief and the highway agent were being discussed. At the time, I was a selectman, for those who did not know. I will skip to the second page, highway agent vacancy. Selectman Coombs, this is in bold letters I might add, Selectman Coombs recused himself from this discussion and left the meeting. There's been quite a bit about discussion about recusals lately. So this was an actual recusal where I stood up and did not participate in the conversation. From the minutes, there was a discussion of job description and pay range for this position, which will be vacant in July. The many duties performed by Mr. St. Hilaire and changes that may be made were explored. The job title may be changed to DPW Director. Item D is my formal request to have all non-public minutes from 1 January of 22 to 11 July of 22, my date of hire, pertaining to the highway agent and DPW discussions, to be unsealed. These will further show my recusal and non-participation in any and all discussions by the board on this matter. These will additionally show that I informed the board of my interest in the position and offered to step down from the Board of Selectmen to avoid any and all conflicts. A second tidbit that I don't have a piece of paper for is I was not the primary choice for this position. If old boy had passed the background check, we wouldn't be having this discussion here tonight. So if there was a grand conspiracy, I probably should have gotten the job first before I went and self-served. Item E, to address the fact that the board was unaware of this change that I made, I have attached the meeting minutes from 29 August of 22. Under the direction of the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Wilson, I was directed, upon my hiring, with establishing the Department of Public Works from the existing Highway Department. This entailed researching all the steps that would be needed to do so and the legal ramifications of such. This meeting is where I briefed the board on the legal opinion from NHMA on actions to take for this department. At this meeting, it was asked that I provide an organizational chart of the department before an official vote was taken for this change. Item F is the meeting minutes from 7 November of '22. Unfortunately, I got tied up in paving and doing my job. Showing the organizational charts discussion. After this meeting, I spoke to my liaison 3 times and the chair 4 times for a vote to take place on this matter in order to codify these changes. So that in the future, people couldn't come back and say it didn't happen. Unfortunately, a small leadership shakeup took place after that, and the item was swept by the side. I would like to point out some additional facts. The RSA cited is not new information. At Mr. St. Hilaire's request, the elected road agent position was put on the ballot in 2020 to make it an appointed position. Upon this passing, he became the highway agent under RSA 231, 62 and 63. Selectwoman Faulkner was correct that buildings is not covered under the highway agent under the RSA that was cited. Neither is stormwater, streetlights, water and fire suppression systems, and outflow management, among other tasks. I won't attempt to quote secondhand legal advice from 3 years ago that was relayed to me, but there were numerous liabilities that were present under the highway agent model that Mr. St. Hilaire brought to the board's attention on numerous occasions prior to 2022, and more when the chairman of the board spoke with counsel on the matter later. I could care less what you call the department. You can call it the United Fruit Pickers of Southern Canada for all I care. But I would strongly suggest, as a taxpayer, that you consult legal before taking Mr. Bakey's research as valid. Mr. Bakey, it was only a few weeks ago that you were in here with your wife alleging dirty politics regarding disparaging comments that question your integrity. It says a lot about you that you did not hesitate to utilize your elected position to do exactly the same thing to me in a public meeting as a private citizen and former employee. I would hope that the board could do what is right in this situation and publish a full retraction of those statements. This should be posted on the website and sent to everybody with a kingstonnh.org email address, as my former coworkers and employees now seem to think that everything I did has a Paul attached to it. I have served this town my entire life. As a select board member, as the chairman of this board, as a planning board representative, and even now, after all the crap that you people put me through, I still want to help this town, and I serve as the chairman of the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee. I should not have to come down here and defend my reputation against slanderous accusations. I take that back, libelous accusations, since they were broadcast and are still being broadcast, which as of this meeting, 89 people have viewed it. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Phil. Well, before we go on, is there anything the board wishes to discuss about the comments that were just made?
Well,
Or are you happy just to take them as comments and?
no, I think that we should apologize to Mr. Coombs based on the fact that there seems to be significant paperwork where he didn't just decide to do it on his own. And I think, while I don't think that anyone did anything intentionally when everybody was talking sort of off the cuff last week and just sort of throwing out some things, I don't think anyone intentionally meant to disparage Mr. Coombs nor his reputation, but I take what he said that it would have, and I think we owe him an apology.
I do agree with that, and I apologize that did come across, and I don't believe I was the only one that spoke of this. I don't know why he had directly commented to me. I said it was my understanding that I didn't understand how that was happening. There was actually, we had a discussion on this last week. And if he had stayed here long enough, I would have apologized to Mr. Coombs, and I will reach out to him. I do know him. Again, sorry for the misconception, but I believe, like Ellen had stated, this was a conversation. Nobody was accusing anybody of anything, so I do apologize.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, but I think we should do that in writing to him.
That was going to be my next question / suggestion.
Absolutely.
All right. How about if it should come from the board? Something should come from the whole board.
Yeah.
Maybe Susan and I can work on a draft and bring it to the board next Monday's meeting. Is that okay?
Sure. What signature's ready to go?
Assuming that you're happy with the words that are on the paper.
Susan never disappoints in that respect.
All right.
You could take that if you wanted to hold
Well,
on to the record.
well, yes. Susan, you have a copy, Susan?
I have one here.
All right, and I'm going to hang on to one as well.
That's fine.
So with the board's permission, we'll work on a written apology for Mr. Coombs to be presented to you, hopefully for signing next Monday. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Sir?
Mr. Gannon.
Oh, okay. The seats all warmed up for you. Not until it's green.
Oh, it's green, okay. My name is Michael Gannon. I live in 40 Jericho Drive, and I'm not going to be real long. I do want to touch on a subject that some of my neighbors brought up, and actually, I think you just heard about it here also from the prior gentleman, communication. I know you all got a lot to do, you're busy, and I appreciate that. But within the past 2 years, there have been 2 scenarios regarding Jericho Drive and the community there. One you just heard about from a couple of my neighbors who were very eloquent in discussing their concerns regarding what's going to happen, especially those expansion of those trucks and diesel fuels machinery that gets going between 5 and 5:30 in the morning. Fortunately, I don't have any kids that live next to their boundary line and hear them cranking up this time of year. I did hear them when I used to get a newspaper and go out at 5:30. And you hear those trucks roaring, and I live a quarter mile down the road. But what concerns me is that we are not hearing about what is transpiring in our community, and by that I'm referring to Jericho, that area there, that there are issues that are impacting our community, and specifically not only this digging these people want to do, but a year and a half ago we had the roads changed for allegedly the better. Did I say something? Oh, okay. And what I'm disappointed about is that we never heard about that either. These folks aren't hearing about the work that's going to take place on their boundary. We didn't hear about the roads being changed over either. No one said anything. And the road is still a problem. There are more cracks. They're deeper than the ones that we walked and looked at. I counted about 60 of them about a year ago. And they've never been fixed, replaced, or anything, and told that was going to happen. The big issue is people need to know what's going on when it's going to impact their lives. Specifically, maybe I won't hear about something on the other side of town, although it's important to know, but if you're going to change my road, if you're going to change my boundary, if you're going to change my lifestyle, if you're going to change the value of the properties that are there, you all need to tell us. I know you're busy and you got a lot of stuff going on, but when it's significant, and I consider this significant, then you all need to somehow spend 60 cents and mail a letter to the people that are involved so they know what the heck's going on and you can get some input. I know you love input. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gannon, I think you gave the best argument ever for a town administrator. Thank you.
We're still in public comment number 1. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right, I'm going to call an end to that part of the meeting then. And if you're still here when it comes time for public comment number 2, you can do something different again. Okay.
I just had a question, because I know on your agenda further down, there was the conversation about the intent to excavate. Because we've already talked about that, is that done, or is that going to be resurfaced? In which case, should we hang out?
It'll resurface, but it won't. It's not open for public discussion
It's not.
at that
Okay.
point. However,
There's public comment right after
there's
it.
public comment right after it, so
Okay, that was my
another
question.
opportunity.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Glenn,
Ellen?
why would we bring it up again?
Only
Just in everybody's sign.
just because we need to sign it or make a decision formally.
I thought we already made a decision formally.
Decision,
Made the
and we
decision,
weren't
not
gonna
the
sign
We
it.
kind of already talked about it, I just wondered.
Yeah, to have them hang out all night.
Yes,
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we were. Oh, yeah, we were.
yeah.
And public comment is before it comes up again.
Yeah, so we talked about signing, but we
So
already made
we
that
should
decision.
probably just put it to
As long as
rest
it was
right
during the
now.
meeting, we
Yeah.
discussed it.
To bed.
Yeah, when I talked about conservation.
Decided to
Committee
get more-
reports.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're getting more information
So
before anything
that, they
is
don't
done.
sit down for that.
Okay, new information. I've already screwed this up, so. I've been reminded by my colleagues that during an earlier part of the meeting, we already dealt with the excavation permit and the fact that we're going to be seeking additional information before we take any action on it. So we will not be discussing that again. You're certainly welcome to stay and enjoy the festivities. Oh, absolutely. No.
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 There's one later. Yes, I did.
It won't be
No,
discussed.
it's not going to be discussed again tonight.
No.
Hopefully, we'll have more information by our meeting next Monday, at which point we can discuss it again. Okay. Old business. All right, the only item, well, actually, there are 3 items, 4 items, 3, but anyway, old business. First, and the board should have this in their packages. There was a warrant article. You need to recuse? All right, Lori's recused from this. So there was a warrant article placed this past March to grant tax exemption to the Vets Club here in Kingston. That article did pass. However, the select board is not in a position to take that action, and we do have guidance from council on that, and I should read to you. Oh, I should have highlighted this. First of all, Susan, did we run this by the assessor, as our counsel suggested? Okay, all right, okay. So we have input from the assessor and we have input from council. So let me read the assessor's comment. It says the Kingston Veterans Club is a 501c19 organization which does not qualify based on RSA 72:23A, which means it is not a veteran organization incorporated by act of Congress or of its departments or local chapters or posts. The applicant states that their general purpose is, quote, a nonprofit organization that supports our local community, youth sports and academics, civic participation, and veterans, end quote. The Kingston Veterans Club 2024 application states that the primary use of their building is 90% for club use and events and only 10% charitable events. Upon investigation, the Kingston Veterans Club is listed on the New Hampshire Department of State, Secretary of State business lookup as, quote, social and civic club, end quote. Membership to this club is only open to honorably discharged veterans. The organization was formed for benefit of its membership only. So that's the input from our assessor that justified their position on why this should not be a tax-exempt organization. And then with regard to council, which responded to us on April 3rd, 2025, she says, I agree that town meeting, and this is in response to a query that I sent to her by email. She says, I agree that town meeting cannot grant a property tax exemption. Why does changing their status with the IRS help? Is that so they can get the charitable entity tax exemption, question mark. And then she says you can say the following at the Board of Selectmen meeting or issue a public statement if you want, and suggested we run it by the assessor, which we did. And the statement is that we have discussed the results of the vote on warrant article 21 at the annual meeting to, quote, restore full tax exemption to the Kingston Veterans Club, end quote, with our assessor and town attorney. As explained at the deliberative session by the town attorney, unless the Kingston Veterans Club meets the statutory requirements for a property tax exemption under RSA Chapter 72, the town has no authority to grant it an exemption, even with an annual meeting vote. And then she cites RSA 72:6, which discusses this and further in detail. But the bottom line is that because of how they're organized, they don't qualify for the tax exemption. And even though there was a warrant article that passed, the select board is not empowered or authorized to grant that exemption.
In some of the discussions about why we took this position, by statute we have a responsibility to enforce the regulations. If the IRS does not designate as a 501c3 charitable organization, then we as a board don't really have the right to make an exception for the Vets Club, because if we make an exception for the Vets Club, there could be another social club that was charitable but did not meet the terms and conditions of the IRS, and then how could we grant an exception to one but not to another? So to be consistently fair, you need to file the paperwork. And I believe Mr. John Pramberg, one of the trustees of the trust fund, has said that he would help the Vets Club file the paperwork necessary to qualify for a 501c3. So we have to be fair, and we have responsibilities to meet to the other taxpayers in town.
Right, and the bottom line is under the current circumstances and the way that the club is registered, we don't have the authority to grant the tax exemption. And again, it's not to say Vets Club doesn't do
A heck of a lot of.
great things for the community.
And they do.
And
By
they do,
far,
and
more
that
than
is
most.
not the issue.
No, no.
The issue is merely one of how they're registered with the Secretary of State, with IRS.
Correct. And we thank the Vets Club for all they do. They do a tremendous amount of stuff for the town. There's no question about that, no question.
So is there any discussion from the board on this further? So we've made the statement. We should probably follow it up in writing to the Vets Club.
And send them a bill. Oh, no, that's the,
Well,
they got the bill, they got it, right?
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
They've been receiving the tax bill, so.
Yes, they have.
So Susan, add it to your list. And if you want to review it, just let me know and we can, okay. So the board is good with sending a letter?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, well, it's the right thing. Okay. Laurie, you can come back. Okay, the next item on the agenda is was another warrant article regarding the Gideon Lodge that had on the warrant a request to be fully tax exempt. They're in a similar category to the Vets Club with the exception that at a 1992 town meeting, the town granted a payment in lieu of taxes in exchange for an easement over some land that they own to access Greenwood Pond. And so over the last 20 or so years, that payment in lieu of taxes had not been collected, had not been paid, and had not been collected by the town. And so when the select board became aware of that, it was our decision to re-implement, or re-establish, if you will, that payment in lieu of taxes scaled up for inflation from 1992 to current, and to issue the tax bill. Now, this is a little different in that the warrant article for the Masonic Lodge for the Gideons did not pass. So there's not that issue to deal with, but we still do have the issue of making the tax bill and sending it out. And it says here in my notes from Susan, it says, I don't think they ever received a bill last year. Tammy, Paula, and I are looking into how to rectify this and set up billing going forward. Paula, do you have any information for us on that?
Yeah. It's not going to be a tax bill.
I didn't know to bill last year, but I can just create an invoice once I know how much and everything.
Okay, well, the amount is...
And when you guys tell me to.
The amount is established at $2,236 a year.
Okay.
And that's for, and I mean, that can be either split twice a year if that's how you want to do it or how they want to do it. And that's, the original payment in lieu of taxes back in 1992 was $1,000. And based on current value of that money, we determined that 2,236 is the correct number for now. And so that's what we will be doing. And then every 5-year revaluation period, the assessor will recommend to us either keeping that number or changing it based on current values of money, and the select board will then have to take action every 5 years on it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last year, how to do it.
Yeah.
And then nobody actually directed you to send the bill out. So, but it will be not a tax bill per se, but like you said, through.
And why wouldn't it be a tax bill? Because it's not taxed, because it's a payment in lieu of?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll do it as like just an invoice. It's like I'm billing somebody.
Correct.
Does it get reflected in their property card, property
file?
I think it is on
Well, we
there.
could, I guess
should.
the assessors can write a note.
Probably should.
I can't do that, but the assessors could write a note or do something in there.
I think she already has, and it does need to be noted because it has to appear on the MS1 as a pilot payment.
Okay.
So we just have to keep good records of that.
So I know Ellie and then Ellen.
A couple of members of the Gideon Lodge have approached me just before election time. They wanted an opportunity to talk with the board about it again on current day. And if you and I could get together with a couple of members, if that's something you'd...
May I respond to that before
Sure.
you go too much further?
Okay.
At the watershed, the recent watershed management plan meeting, Mr. Peva,
That's,
who I believe is the head, I don't know what the title is, but the head person at the lodge, was there representing them, and asked me, he had mentioned that he had conversations with you.
Yes.
Asked if he could speak with me about this, and my response to him was, he really shouldn't be speaking with individuals. I suggested that he get with Susan, make an appointment to come in and speak to the board.
Okay.
Because it should be a board discussion.
Okay, but probably a non-public one? I mean, I don't know where they're gonna go with this.
I think it should start in open discussion, and if it needs to go into non-public, we can make that decision. But
All right.
but I think it's really more appropriate for them to be addressing the board.
Okay, I don't have a...
And that was my suggestion to him.
Okay, I have no problem with that at all. I think that's a great idea,
Okay,
because so we are all on the same page.
Sure, and I if for no other reason, I mean, well, first of all, it's the right thing to do, but also so that all of us are hearing the same story all at once.
That's correct.
And we can have the discussion. And so I suggested that he reach out to Susan, make an appointment with us, and we'll deal with it.
Okay, beautiful, perfect.
Ellen?
What will be the process to make sure that, I'm sorry, you're right, Ellen, my apologies. What would be the process to make sure this doesn't get sort of lost again? And that every 5 years, somebody does reassess? Is there a tickle file someplace? Is it now on your radar to?
Yeah, now it's on my radar. I mean, I had nothing to follow, and I couldn't do it, but now when I do this one invoice, I could do one to recur, like it'll create one next year for, we'll just say we're gonna do it for 5 years from now. I know it's only like 3 now at this point, but I could make a recurring invoice, so it just creates one.
And how do we make sure that within whatever 5 years is, that someone is redoing it again in 5 years?
Which is why there needs to be something in the property file and the assessor's file, that when that comes up, that it gets reviewed.
That's what I'm asking is.
Within Avatar, you can make a note on the file that has a reminder date, and the assessor will see that.
So that's, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
can we just
we
make
should
sure
do
that
that.
that gets done?
Yeah, and I can ask her if there's a better way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you'll speak with Katie about that?
just so the board 20 years from now isn't wondering what we were doing.
Or 10.
Whatever, so, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Paula. Okay, moving on. So with regard, just to close out the lodge, I would expect that, based on my suggestion to Mr. Pava, that we'll be hearing, or Susan will be hearing from him at some point to set up an appointment with us. Okay. Work on the planes, electrical, site investigation, see memo about the issue, okay.
I just wrote down what took place last week when we had a little back and forth about that RFQ and the reason why we changed the dates to.
So, Peter, you brought us the draft of the RFQ. We made a couple of adjustments. We were going to send it out, and then we heard back from Sanborn Head regarding the further site investigation, where they're going to be drilling more wells on the plains and surrounding area. And there was the issue that if we disturb ground as part of the trenching for the electrical work, that could impact the work that the site investigation work. So I know there was a lot of discussion, and it ended up that we would go ahead and release the RFP, but we would take out the specific date. What was the phrase? Right.
Basically, that the dates could change. We just added a parenthetical statement that would cover any of the changes. Peter said that he thought that would work.
So the RFQ went out?
Yep.
Is posted. Peter?
The only one added thing to this that we probably should address sooner than later. Tom and I told you we spent a lot of time on this project out here in the plains, and as we dug into the issues that we have out here on the commons, it's deemed unsafe what we have out there. So we will hold off on the construction, but what we recommend immediately is disconnect power from those two sources, which Unitil, I've talked to them, and because we are upgrading the system, they will not charge us for a disconnect for the meters. And they recommended that I talk to either the police or the fire department, which I talked to Chief Pellerin, and he's more than willing to put a utility vehicle over there and turn the lights on. So that would alleviate Unitil from paying a $500 minimum to the police department for a road detail, just to assist them with disconnecting those 2 meters. But I think that should really be done ASAP. That's, if somebody, unfortunately, some of them are locked, some of them aren't locked. We have no idea where the keys are, and we have no idea who has access to those panels, and it's just not a safe situation out there. So I'm asking the board to permission to disconnect those 2 power services out there.
So I'm going to take that as a motion from you.
Second.
And second by Ellen, to authorize the disconnection of the power on the plains until we get the new system set up there.
Correct.
Correct.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, Peter. Okay. Tom, did you have anything to add with regard to the, no? Okay. Didn't mean to ignore you, but yeah. Don't want you to fall asleep either. Okay.
He gets up early in the morning.
Well, yeah. Okay, the next item is the lease, lease rent, whatever it is. Option to lease renewal. This is part of the discussion that happened during public comment number 1 with regard to Ms. Brown's questions. And so what we need, well, as I explained, the lease agreement was granted up to 5 years to Revision Energy to do their site investigation and come up with a proposal for us. If it all worked out for a possible solar field in the landfill, built into that up to 5-year agreement was a requirement to renew on an annual basis, and so we're being asked to renew that for the next year, and that's what we have here. So it's just the amendment. And Peter, did you have a question about this?
I actually have a couple questions. It doesn't appear we have the whole lease agreement copy here, right? So we only can go with what we have in front of us. Right. I just want to make sure that this basically says that was actually the leases, the closed landfill for the study of. This is a study. This is nothing going to be going forward with construction. So that's one big thing that we should see that in that lease agreement. And the question thing, I'm just reading over this, I'm a little, just reading that.
So that we can all read along. Which section?
So
The third whereas.
Yeah, if you go on the first page that you're looking at,
okay.
And the third whereas, that just seemed a little bit, I don't understand why we as the landlord would terminate an option agreement. Our annual right to terminate an option agreement.
Yeah, has that been something that's
It
always?
says landlord and tenant desire to modify the option agreement to remove landlord's annual right to terminate the option agreement.
Correct.
When we choose not to go forward with it?
But they're the tenant.
No, this is saying that they're going to remove our right to terminate the option agreement.
Correct.
don't want.
and that's just one thing I picked out. Just, I mean, I was reading briefly, I apologize, I brought it up a little early. I was just kind of reading it down real quick, and that's just one of them I saw.
I can get the whole original to you all.
But this is called an amendment. This is, they've attached the original option to lease agreement and the amendment. So this is the first amendment to option the ground lease agreement. And I don't know if this is new language that we've never seen before.
It is.
Because.
It's First Amendment.
No, it's not.
I don't think it's new language. I think that the only thing is that they would change, this is the first option here. They're not, I don't think all of the whereases and the therefores have changed.
Do we have the original?
We do, and I want to go and take a look at that before you get too far into this, because I'm not sure I gave you the right thing.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
Let's compare it with the original, make sure
Yeah.
it still is the same, and if we have questions, we can ask, but.
Thank you.
So if we can take care of that, we'll put it off until next meeting. We'll sort of table that item. Okay. Compensation/benefits study RFP status. Paula, can you bring us up to date, please? I've already had an email conversation with you, but I think the board needs to have the full scoop.
I reviewed it last week and then sent it to our attorneys on Friday morning when I came back. And then she had a question that I got this afternoon. She's wondering why there are just 46 positions up for review.
It said approximate, and last year when I was trying to get a sense for what it would cost to do it, I had to give an approximate number of job classifications. And when I counted them up, I came up with like roughly around 46.
Okay.
And I thought that when I said that, you were shaking your head yes, that was about the right number?
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she said which positions are included and which are left out.
I don't think any are left out.
I don't think so.
I think it's all of them.
I'll go through all of what we have right now.
Yeah, it would be good to do a current count, because I don't know, I was doing a rough thing and I didn't know if 46. That's why it says approximately.
Yep. And then she just sent it to me, so I haven't been able to forward.
So will you have something that we can review for next Monday?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll have it hopefully tomorrow. But.
Well, if that's the case, do you want to have Susan send it out or you send it out to the board so they can review it ahead of time?
Yes, I can, yeah. She sent it, I just have to.
Will it have both markups in
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she just sent it to me right before the meeting. It was like at 5:45.
Okay.
So.
Well, if the board has a chance to look at it before the meeting, then we'll be better prepared to discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are folks okay to continue on?
Yeah.
Don't need a break yet?
Not unless you do.
I might soon, but if I do, you can carry on while I do that, so.
2/4 time, let's go.
Okay.
That metronome is going.
Okay, we're under new business. The Plains Cemetery celebration is coming up on May 31st, and the Heritage Committee thought that it would be a good idea to invite dignitaries and political folks, and I mean, it's a pretty big event in town. I mean, it's the 300th anniversary of the cemetery. The cemetery's been recently added to the National Register of Historic Places. And the Heritage Commission and many volunteers have done a lot of work there, and it's something Kingston should be proud of and is proud of. And so there is a letter, a draft letter. Oh, and Ernie Landry spoke with me and asked me if they were going to do a letter of invitation to various folks. Should it be signed by the Select Board or should it be signed by the Heritage Commission? And I honestly didn't know, so I believe that Ernie discussed it with No, with the Plain Cemetery Steering Committee, discussed it, and they thought that it would be better coming from the select board. So the draft letter is in your packet.
I have a typo. Yeah, from which is already in the Kingston Lake Association bulletin.
Ernie, if you want to turn your mic on, please. Thank you. So I'm hearing that there's a typo.
It says across the town hall, and it should be across from the town hall.
Not cross for the town, cross from.
From the town hall, yeah. It just leaked out and shouted at me. It's an automatic reaction. Edited right.
And was there another one?
No, we got the same one.
Okay.
Like mine.
All right. Well, I caught that one and got it ahead of time, so that one's in there. Ernie, would you like to speak to this further from what I've already said?
Yeah, when we got together with the committee, we kind of thought that it would be good for the Board of Selectmen to actually send the invitations out, because it shows a little more prestige to the event, and the letters will be going to dignitaries in the state, the governor, representatives, and so forth. And so we thought that it might be nice from the Selectmen's office to send that out rather than a lowly Heritage Commission.
A very important lowly Heritage Commission.
So that was our thinking on it. Just I think it does lend a lot of prestige to the event if you guys send a letter out rather than.
Yeah, do we have invitation type cards that we could do in a nice laser jet printer or anything like that?
Tammy's got some really nice cards downstairs, but I don't know if they have to be printed in or just handwritten.
I think I have nicer stationery
Okay.
that I could use.
There you
All
go.
right, that'd be great.
Print them out.
Perfect.
We'll use the good
stuff. Although the kids today never use the good china, but that's another dose.
Goes into the dumpster.
Yeah, jeez.
So the Heritage Commission is asking if we will be the signers to this letter, and if this letter is okay with you folks. Well, given the corrections. Is that a motion, Lori?
Yes, I make a motion to have the chair of the select board sign. It looks like there's at least 2 versions of the letter.
There's one that goes to different, you sent me a different one today, goes to a certain person. I can't remember because I've got it in my email, but there's a slightly different.
There are a couple of versions.
Okay,
Yeah.
to authorize the chair to sign the letters of invitation for the 300th anniversary celebration of the cemetery.
Motion by Lori, second by Ellie. Discussion. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ernie. We'll work on those and get them out shortly.
Yeah,
Do you want to talk about that grant, the second part of that?
I haven't had.
Do we have to
really
mention
look at
that?
it, so.
Are you signing each letter individually?
Yeah, I'm gonna print out a bunch and then I'm gonna call Glenn. I haven't even gone through it yet, so we'll pretty it up.
Does someone have a list of the names and the addresses and all
Yep.
that stuff?
Yep, Ernie gave me a whole list. It's on the back, should be on the back of your letter. I hope I gave you the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ernie, did you want to also talk about this letter
Yeah,
from
yes.
Humanities?
A couple of meetings ago, we talked about how that we were going to look for grants to help to finance this event, and that the past procedure has been when we got a grant, the money would be put into the Heritage Fund. You guys would accept it. It would be put in the Heritage Fund, and then it would be expended out of the Heritage Fund when the purpose of the grant was completed. And so, in this case, we have 2 grants for 2 tours. And And so what I wanted to do was just make sure that we followed that procedure and you all were able to accept the grants and then authorize the expenditure of those funds for the purpose of the grant. This is a little different in one respect, in that the way New Hampshire Humanities handles the grants is on these Humanities to Go grants, is they send a check out to the town or the grantee, whoever that is. It could be a nonprofit, and then the grantee just hands that check to the speaker. And so a check won't be, and no money will be deposited in the Heritage Fund or taken out of the Heritage Fund. But on the other hand, I'm assuming that you all need to accept the grant anyway to the town.
Well, is the grant coming to the town, or is the grant coming to the person who's doing the speaking?
Well, the grant comes to the town.
Is the check made out to the town?
But no, the grant comes to the town, and you have the letter there accepting that grant proposal and issuing the grant, but the check is made out by New Hampshire Humanities to the
Individuals,
yes.
okay. But they mail it to us.
Yeah, so that we can just hand it to them.
That is different.
Well, that's a little sticky wicket.
Yes, it is.
We have to accept it in order for all, Paula's saying it, so
Well, yes.
even though we're not actually getting it.
So we accept the grant on behalf of the town of Kingston graciously accepts, I move that the town of Kingston graciously accept the grant from the Humanities Council for that, from New Hampshire Humanities Council, for the purpose of 2 doses a day of our late cemetery celebration.
Second.
Formal enough, get good words in there.
Motion by Ellie, second by Peter. Further discussion? Ernie, does that cover it? Paula, does that cover it?
We're good to go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That's unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And may I raise one other thought? Listening to the fact that the electricity is going to be discontinued at the Plains, will that be discontinued on May 31st? Or will it?
Not before.
Probably tomorrow. It's immediate. It's in very bad shape, Ernie. We could probably come up with like a 2,000-watt generator or something, one of those quiet Hondas, if we needed to do some publications or had some power issues out there. But as far as those panels go, they're in really bad shape.
Okay, so can we count on some kind of?
You let us know what we need, and I'll figure it out for you.
So the power would be for what, a PA system?
Yes.
Anything else?
Not that I know of right yet.
Okay, because there will be a ceremony on the plains.
Right.
And so there will be amplification, there'll be microphone and speakers. That's kind of it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So while we're talking about no power in the plains, the church uses that for sunrise service for Easter, and they use a PA. So we're gonna need to communicate with them to make sure that they are aware they're not gonna have power. I don't know who does that, I just am remembering that they're gonna be out there in a couple Sundays.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you, Ernie. So I just want to make sure, I mean, it sounded like you, Peter, were gonna make sure.
I'll speak with Ernie. We'll figure something out.
Okay, good.
The long story short, well, Ernie, I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Will whatever you do for Ernie work for the church as well, if I talk to them?
This is a town event,
Correct.
so, yeah,
They're gonna have to get their own
correct.
system.
We need to let them know.
They need to
That's
be
what
aware
I'm
that there won't
asking
be
about,
electricity
yeah.
for them.
Okay.
And they'll have to, if
Yeah,
they want a
because-
generator, they'll have to do it.
We signed the special event permit for them as well, so for that reason alone, they should be notified that there will be no town power. Thanks, Susan.
Okay. All right. Next item under new business is an update for you all on the point of entry treatment system situation where Susan and I had a Zoom call with, there were representatives there from Verdantis, which is one of our consultants, and 3 members from New Hampshire DES. And this all relates to the grant that we have for this project. We discussed with them a few things, and one of them, of course, is the situation that we have across the street with the newly identified contaminated sites that exceed a site that exceeds the limits of the PFAS. It turns out that we haven't used as much money in our grant as we anticipated that we might have, because a lot of the contingencies that were built into it we did not need to tap into. So it means that if we wanted to do a permanent solution for that site like we've done for the 20-some-odd homes, we could do that. It's going to require an amendment to the grant agreement, which will have to go to Governor and Council, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll probably be a couple of months away before that happens, but we can do that, and there's enough money in the grant to cover it, which would be a better solution than constantly providing bottled water. The other situation is that there were a couple of, and Susan, you're going to have to help me with this one, a couple of sites that were when we got the grant, already had treatment systems. 3 of them, 2 of which could possibly get reimbursed through the grant. Again, there's money to do that. But we're in the process of getting, before we can do that and before we can ask DES to help us with that, we need invoices, we need documentation from those 2 sites, one of which is our own fire station, by the way, to get reimbursed for the system that was put in.
I've contacted the other homeowner that would be involved. I just had to leave a message to get, if she's got her bill from when she put it in, it can be reimbursed under the grant, as well as for the fire hose. And I have asked Paula about that, to find that invoice. The 3rd one is a house that's been sold in the meantime, right. So that's not going to apply. Right. There's a couple other things that I think these 3 will be included in the annual maintenance. It's a small amount, but we have to remember to get that those invoices as well. So we'll use a little bit more of the money, but we're still way below our estimate.
So Ellie, you seem to be chomping at the bit to say something.
Well, I'm concerned about the one across the street, only because it's a commercial property. It's different. I just don't want to open up a door that we don't want to go through. I guess, we have, until I see that hydrogeologic study of flow, we really need that piece of it to know the source of contamination and responsibility. I mean, I'm assuming that's still in the works, right?
Well, yes, but we're potentially putting this off for a long time. I mean, this could be a ways down the road before we have that answer. Had that site not been tested, we wouldn't be in this.
How long is the grant good for? How long can we make amendments to it?
Well, first of all, the DES cautioned us that it's not wise to go back to Governor and Council many times with amendments, because the more they see it come before them, they then start asking a lot of questions about why.
Yeah, well, and that's, I understand that, because it looks like this is going to be a forever project, because once we get the second section of the planes, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's what's going to stop them from testing?
Right. So a couple of things. The timeline, turns out that the grant that we got, they used ARPA funding for it. They had a couple of pots of money, and they chose to use the ARPA for us. Yeah. And as you all know, the ARPA funds had to be obligated by the end of December of last year, and they need to be used by the end of December 2026. But for DES's purposes, they can't wait till the end of 2026 to sort of wrap up all their paperwork. So they're trying to get things all wrapped up in the summer of 26.
Summer, so we still have more than a year.
Yes, however, the one more piece that you need to know is that there are other sites in New Hampshire that are looking for funding from DES, and they would like to it's not taking the money back, it's reducing our total amount so that they then can use the remainder to grant to another.
No, we don't put I understand I'm saying now, let's put it all in and do it.
Oh, I get you.
Right, let's not let someone else raid the piggy bank before we finish.
Thank you. So the thought is, and this is DES's, and Susan, you jump in any time if I'm saying something wrong. DES suggested to us that we consider doing one amendment. We haven't done any amendments yet, but just one more that would do two things. One would add the site across the street for a reimbursable system, and reduce the grant amount to a level that will cover everything that we think we need to do, and a bit of a buffer, but that still leaves a chunk that they can use for other work.
Okay,
in New
that's right.
Hampshire.
So we can take care of what we know now.
Plus
Yes.
a little extra, just in case another one of these pops up.
You need a few, yes.
And it can
forward
only be
system.
used for certain things anyway. I think
Right.
that's what we're running it, and that's why we have to go back to them, because this is considered not a private well. So that's why it has to go back.
Okay, gotcha. Yes.
So I think I need clarification on the three systems that you said were previously done, and the firehouse, and then two other residents, one already been sold, so that doesn't. But you talked about maintenance. We already agreed that, isn't the grant covering 1-year maintenance?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Okay, so, but I don't know what your comment meant.
I think there was some confusion about which existing systems were included when I was, figuring out what
I
to
see.
tell about the budget.
Okay.
So these three are included in that annual
Yes.
maintenance.
Okay.
So even the one that's in the residence that isn't going to be reimbursed,
Yeah.
the year of maintenance is covered.
Right. And so for the system across the street, if we go forward with putting a system in, and then we find out later through the testing in the monitoring wells, Ellie, I think is going to help us figure out the flow, right? Like language in that that it's determined that it's not caused by the responsible party being the firehouse, that's all the language that they keep saying, then they would have to cover the maintenance of that system.
Yes.
Correct.
That the town would not be responsible, but we would put the system in through this grant.
Right.
With the stipulation that if it's then determined, then they're responsible for maintaining it. Is that what we're all
what I would
talking
think.
about?
That would be my expectation.
Okay. Okay.
Similar, we don't have that same language for the residents, although we do have language in there that if at any point the levels of the PFAS drop to acceptable levels, the town doesn't have to be responsible for those systems.
That's correct.
And I mean, that would have the same one.
And it would have that, but
we
then it would
still
have the
don't-
additional.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
It seems to me that if we can get that covered by the grant, instead of us paying for water the rest of our lives,
Yes.
it winds up being a win for the town.
Right.
And I think that's the part we need to talk about, not
Well,
whether or
it-
not, but technically, we would have to provide water, as long as they didn't put in a system, we'd have to provide water. which would-
Until it can be determined the cause of
Right.
the contamination.
And that would just be ridiculous if we
Yeah,
could get a
let's
grant.
not even go down that road, because that
That's what I
place
mean.
has been contaminated for a long
Yeah.
time.
Right. I was going to say something else, and it just evaporated.
It's okay. Sounds like.
Anyway,
So I should go ahead and have them evaluate the property, have water techs get us an estimate,
Yes.
and have Verdanta start putting in that amendment, because we have to submit that to
Yes.
DES.
yes. We should do that by board vote, by the way, but we just came and went again. Oh, we did ask the question of DES. Susan asked it after she and I talked after the meeting, whether or not the town could proactively put a system in across the street and be reimbursed later, figuring that that would, again, you know, we could stop delivering water, we could, you know, get them on board quickly. But we were told that because technically the installation of the system is construction, it can't be retroactively reimbursed.
Okay.
So.
Well, the good news, it's in a grant. That's the good, it's not a tax dollars that are being paid for. The tax dollars will be used for water, but not for the installation.
So I'd like a motion, I think, from the board, because this is it's a significant piece of business, to authorize proceeding with putting together or doing whatever we need to do with Verdantis and DES to amend our PFAS contract to include an additional site, which we've already identified, and to work with Verdantis and DES to possibly reduce the amount of the award, and this would all be as part of one amendment to go to the Governor and Council, to leave enough in the grant to cover our needs, but to be able to use whatever leftover DES deems.
Does that have to be part of the motion? It sounds like they're gonna do it anyway. Are we just worried about that we want to authorize going forward with the amendment to our original, what do you call it?
But they're looking to us to,
They want us to volunteer the money?
well, they said they would work with us to determine the amount. There's some give and take there.
Okay.
I mean, they might propose a number and we might say, you know.
Well, we're gonna propose more than we really need.
And they don't, I mean, they admit it, they don't want to cut us short either. They understand the situation. They understand that there could be some surprises still to come, which is why they said that the number that we arrive at would, should leave enough of a buffer for us. I'm sorry, that was so rambling.
Do you want to just authorize me to go forward and work with them to put together the amendment to the grant?
To include several other sites that need to be addressed.
Right.
And then we can figure out, after we find out how much that's gonna cost.
Right.
How much we think.
We need
You'll
to.
have a specific amendment in front of you at some point when they have it put together to go to DES.
All right. So I'll make that motion.
Easy for you to say.
Well, I mean,
Not.
Susan did it. It was certainly better than my ramble. Who seconded it? Lori. Okay, discussion.
Yeah, tell me what it is we're voting on again, Glenn?
No, don't do that.
All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous.
Speed it up a little bit.
You won't even recognize it.
Okay, board business. I realize this is getting to be a long evening. It's been kind of a trying one. If you don't want to get into this discussion now, we can do it next week, but 3 board members submitted some ideas to Susan, and she's compiled them, and she's even color-coded them. As well as she provided us with a list of the board priorities that we had talked about for this past year. So maybe what we should do, what would the board like to do? Would they like to talk about this now, or would you like to mull it over and discuss it next week?
I would recommend we mull it over and discuss it next week, because I believe all these are very important. And I'd hate to not give them the time maybe needed, because we're all wanna.
Because I'm tired.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, and I think there should be, attention should be paid on all of these issues to talk about, because we might all have different ideas.
Yep.
And the other piece of it is, we're never gonna get all of this done, so we're gonna have to set some priorities.
Well, that's why they need to be assigned a priority level.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I know even from last year, we were able to do some, but not all, but it was a full year. It's not like we didn't do any work.
Right.
So I think we should try to pick the top 3 or 5 and focus, but that's my suggestion. Just, I'd like to see us have some accomplishments, which would be really nice.
Can I just make one comment? Ellen, during the candidates night, you had mentioned that you wanted to try to make it so people at home could interact with us during a select board meeting. Did you want to make that an initiative? Did you want to add that to your list?
I thought I had.
There's only one on there for you.
I'm sorry, that's because I have 3 more that I forgot to give Susan.
Oh.
Yes, that's one of them.
Okay.
One of them was one that Peter had last year, which is about trying to encourage volunteerism.
Yeah.
One is to try and get people to be able to comment, and the other one is, I think, with the Board of Selectmen themselves needs a calendar of events, not just when we have meetings,
Yeah.
but when we have things that are due.
Yeah, okay.
So, but I think those are, a couple of them are easy.
Yeah, can you send that
them
to
along.
us?
And you
Yeah.
can update
Yeah.
the list for us?
I'll update for the mailing.
And we'll table that item and put it on the agenda for next month. Yeah. Public comment number 2. Moving on. Correspondence. Okay. All right, there's the intent. Hi, Rick. Maybe I'll just go through the orange folder here, because I don't know if I can just.
You had the 2 that you pulled out on top of the blue folder.
It's in our packet. Okay, got it. Okay, this was received on March 31 at the Select Board office. It's from Muriel Ingalls, President of the Kingston Lake Association, regarding cleanup of Kingston State Park on May 17 from 9 to 12. We have nobody left here to address this, okay. It reads, several years ago, the New Hampshire Department of Parks and Recreation announced an Adopt a Park program. Kingston Lake Association made a commitment at that time to help with the initial cleanup of Kingston State Park. We have volunteered many hours to raking and picking up the leaves, limbs, and other debris to help make the park ready for a new season. We focus our attention on the picnic area in front of the beach, we never know how much help we will get. It would be very helpful to our volunteers if some of the Highway Department's resources were available on Saturday, May 17 from 9 to 12. Most helpful to us would be a small dump truck and tractor. KLA also believes the dog receptacle waste station at the park, KLA also provides the dog receptacle waste station at the park, which we maintain each week. I mention this because KLA is a small organization with volunteers who are doing their best to care for the Kingston Lake. Thank you for taking the time to consider this request.
We've done this in the past.
Have we talked with Tom about it?
So last year I was there, and what DPW provided was the big thing that sucks up all the leaves. So that's really what they need, was that thing because the Muriel and all of those folks had everything all raked up, and we just had to go along and suck up all the stuff and all the debris, so.
No dump truck, no trailer?
I think that's what she's calling it, I ended up driving the truck and Phil handled the leaf sucker-upper, so.
I'll speak with Tom and we'll get a hold of Muriel.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what they had last year, And that was all that they needed.
Perfect.
Did you get the name of that, the leaf sucker?
The
operator?
leaf
I wrote it there, leaf sucker. I wrote it on my sheet of paper.
It's the technical term.
That's what I got it. I got it right here. Also, just to touch base real quick, I know a long time ago, I told you that I was trying to work on the recouping the state park, the town of Kingston. So I have, with the help of, I was kind of falling on dead ears, to be honest with you, because you don't know who to talk to in Concord. And with the help of Pam Brown, hi Peter, the state rep in Plasto, Republican Bob Harb, is the State Park Advisory Council. He leads that in the state of New Hampshire. I was told today they will place your topic about possibly acquiring the Kingston State Park by the town on their next agenda. So they're not showing that's going to take place, but we're in queue for that inquiry to see if there's still a possibility. Because I'm still working on that, but it's not easy to find out who to get a hold of in Concord. You kind of keep getting different directions, but we found out the direction. So we'll keep it in the works and just maybe see what they have to say. Just an idea. But I'm still working on that.
Yeah, and Janet Stevens, who's our executive counselor, has done a lot to help the fire department. Maybe Graham can connect you with her to see if she has got a little extra juice to help us along.
I need that juice to get to the governor's council, some of the PFAS stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
So we have the excavation intent. Again, Susan has provided us with the rule on this and the fact that we've got 30 days, so forth and so on, to sign off on this. And what we're waiting for now is input from some further details from conservation. Yes.
Yes. They need a chance to know where it's.
I'm gonna reach out.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes.
to Mayo and see if we can get a map of what they're doing.
Where the site is that they want to excavate on the property and what's in it. Is it near the wetlands? Is it?
Do they have, if they're clearing timber, don't they have to put in a request for that?
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
done it, timber.
I wanna
don't
check on
want them
that.
to cut more trees like they did the last time either.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry,
Susan, if
Adam.
you can check on the whether or not we have a timber cut.
Yep.
Intent to cut for the timber. Okay. So that's all set for the time being.
I can get that in writing if you want to hold off on that. He told me verbally, because I knew he was going out, he and Kevin, he said, no, that one's all set, so I just did it, but, yeah. Yeah, that would be better.
Those two separate pieces are on top of the blue thing.
Right.
I thought that's what you were looking for, I'm sorry.
Well, no,
I was
we
just
can,
trying
we
to
can,
help.
we can do these now. Paula's probably gone. I think she check. She's doing it. Is she? Is that her writing?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The door's
Well,
shut, yeah.
So, just so that the board knows, we have an invoice from Municipal Resources for the mediation work that they did for us. It's an itemized invoice. They quoted us a number of not to exceed 2,500. Well, it came pretty close, but it didn't go over. 2,460. And the note from Paula is, let me know if I can pay this and where I should and what account to take it from. I don't know if we discussed where the money was actually.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either. And I don't have a.
We don't have a contingency either.
Well, I don't have a budget.
When we discussed it, I think it was the contingency fund, because this was prior to. I understand that.
But when we did this, we had one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's our, I don't have a budget in front of me. So I don't know what line.
Do you do?
Can we take it out of benefits, for example?
Seems like it would be consulting.
Contracted service?
For truth and budgeting, it would be a consulting line. Yeah, either one of those, right? And I know that that money is very specifically laid out for things, so we'll probably end up coming up short in the end of the year on that line item, but that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But underneath is just other, which says 26,000.
Yeah, and there's very specific amounts in there. Stacy and Paula would be able to tell you off the top of their head exactly what's in there.
Where are you at on?
I'm under executive, I think. Dues, contracted services.
Because Poet is I'm trying to remember.
They split that out this time.
They did.
It's sort of under, yeah, it's under executive, 4130, and it's 4130-9.
Oh, contracted services.
Yeah.
And
Your consulting and outside services, your budget for the wage thing was 18,000, but they put in 20,500, so you'd have extra, and so that 2,500 would cover this expense. The wage matrix thing, it was 18,000, but the budget committee gave you extra just in case of 20,500.
I thought it was 20,000 even.
It says 20,500 under consulting and outside services.
Is that the line that they put it under?
That's where it's supposed to be, yeah. And you said it was going to cost 18, but they put in 20,500, which will cover your $2,500 bill at this point. That's my foot,
Right, but
because
then
I'm
we'll
not
be-
doing
then
this.
We'll be short. Then we'll be short for the wage study.
Why?
We're
It
going to
was
be
18.
short somewhere.
That
You
wasn't
thought,
a
I mean,
firm quote.
no,
That
no,
was-
but again, you can always then move money in if you,
Okay.
We're gonna have, anyway.
Well, we're gonna be short somewhere because,
so-
so just put it in under contracting services, and at the end of the day, in 8 months, we figure it out.
yeah.
Harass the school.
Yeah, right, we'll leave that to you.
It'll be my pleasure. I will be
You can't,
delighted.
even if they give you that money back, you can't spend it.
Not all,
41.
You can't spend any of it. It's revenue.
it's revenue, goes against the tax bill.
Correct.
Absolutely.
4130,
4130-09.
okay,
Yeah,
What's that?
contracted services.
contracted services.
So I wrote the number on here for, can, maybe give this back to Paula. Okay. There's a purchase order from the police department, looks like it's for computers and so forth. It's signed off by the chief and by Paula, and it has the quote from Block 5. It's a total of $6,473.96. It was a budgeted item apparently, and it leaves a balance of $470.75 for the account.
So why did you pull it out?
I pulled it out because if Paula was going to be here, I was just going to ask if it was all set. That's all. But she's not here, so we can't ask.
Okay, let's sign it then.
So we'll go ahead and sign it.
You're funny sometimes, you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
Barrel of laughs. What's the date? What's the date today?
Today's the 7th.
7th.
There you go. All right, we have, this is the recycling yard, junkyard license to be issued to Ken's Auto Salvage, 18 Powell River Road. Okay. It says per Pedro, but we don't have something from him yet?
We don't have a form, he's never uses a form, so we need to, maybe you can do a form for us. We don't have, it's not, that's what we normally get, is the sticky note.
Yeah, I don't,
Okay, so, but
I don't
we
think
can.
that's,
Okay, but we could still sign that one, but going forward, it would be nice to have something more than just a sticky note. Yeah, I'm surprised it doesn't either. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Pass that one down to
Separate or?
Yeah, we should, yeah, absolutely, we should sign it.
Oh, okay, all right.
yeah.
Then, but going forward, we'd like to see a form.
And I don't care if it's a form, but it needs to be a note that the building inspector's just signed off on that corresponds with why we signed off on that. Yeah.
He's probably, because he was gonna put these in cloud for I don't know if he's actually gonna do that, but he might be able to trigger something up there.
Okay. We have a reappointment to public office. This is for Madeline Willett, Historic District Commission. She's been a member of that for many years now, and she has attached a letter to us indicating that she would like to be re-upped for that position. So, may I? This is for a term.
She'll come and get you if you don't sign that.
For a term of 3 years to expire March 31, 2028. May I have a motion, please?
See you tomorrow, too.
Lori, you. It looks like property tax exemption, elderly exemption, and all the documents here, everything's, it's all set.
We should have something besides a sticky note from her, too.
They do a lot of sticky notes, so.
I know.
This is a warden services bill.
That's from the fire department.
It's from the fire department.
Another sticky note.
Susan, how do you want to do this?
Oh.
And I didn't sign that because there's a spot
We
up
can
top
put
that
a
says it
little
needs to be
arrow,
signed first,
sticky
and it
note.
wasn't. But anyway, go ahead, that was just me.
Yeah, Graham signed it, but Ellen was saying, I think something is up here, it looks like it needs,
Oh, forest ranger approval, up top.
so, I mean, if you want me to send it back to them, but Kelly dropped it off like that,
Do
so.
whatever you want.
And it has to be signed by the treasurer as well, so would it be okay with you if we make our rounds here and then they take care of that after?
Anyone can do whatever they feel comfortable with.
We want all
It
the
should be-
signatures on before we get,
It should be done in order.
I'm saying,
just say.
yeah, just saying.
Okay, and the last item in the orange folder is a form for us to sign, actually for the chair to sign. And this is a document that has to go back to the state, to the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. And this was for the grant that we got for the seminary property, for them to demolish the science building. And this document is verifying that in fact the work has been done and it's all set. So we just need to tidy this up and sign it and send it back to the state. May I have a motion to authorize me to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Ellie and Ellen, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, okay, unanimous.
I got non-public. I said I hate to break it to everybody, but I got something for non-public. It's, yeah, sorry. It won't take long. It's mostly for review.
Minutes from March 31,
So moved.
public and non-public?
Public and non-public.
I apologize, I didn't complete the Board of Health ones. They're almost done. I'll send them out when they're done.
Okay. Motion by Ellie, second by Ellen. Discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oop, aye. Opposed, abstentions, unanimous. Okay. I do have a couple of things. I don't know, but you said you have something, so
So we're gonna go into non-public, so I move that we go into non-public on 901(3)(a)(42)(c).
maybe A and C.
A and C, 91. I am.
And I have to go take a quick break, but let's go into,
All right. Adam, we're gonna sign us out.
oh, got a
Oh,
vote?
yeah. Roll call.
Roll call. Ellen? Peter?
Yeah, yeah,
Glenn, yes.
okay.
Who was the second?
Ellen.
Ellen. All right, so, yes.